Well, hey there. Welcome to the Movie Review Mom YouTube channel. If you are brand new to my channel, yay, you found me. I'm so glad. And if you're a subscriber returning, thank you so much. I truly appreciate your support. Just commenting down below, liking my video, subscribing, of course. All of those actions just spread magical YouTube fairy dust all over my channel so more people can find it. So thank you. So the movie I'm excited to review today with you, for you, is called Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. This movie is rated PG-13. It is 2 hours and 24 minutes long. Probably a little too long, but I'll get to that in just a minute. But my movie review mom grade is, drum roll, an A minus. I know, what film critic tells you the score before you have to sit through all the explanation? Okay, but please sit through all of the explanation because I've got a lot to say about this movie. I'll give you an overview in a nutshell, and then I'll point out things I liked and didn't like, as well as offer tips for parents, themes worth talking about, interesting lines, and even recommendations for other movies that are sort of similar that you might also enjoy. All right, so let's dive in. In a nutshell, I have been a fan of this franchise for decades. I grew up with this franchise. Harrison Ford has created such an iconic and beloved character in Indiana Jones that will surely drive audiences and fans to the theaters to see him on the big screen. However, I know not everybody is a franchise fan. I am, though, and so I was super excited. And I had the privilege of attending a press screening just last night with a bunch of other film critics and some fans. And it was so much fun. I always like to see how the audience reacts. You know, a lot of times I'll get press screeners from the studio. They'll send it to me as a virtual link and I watch it online, which is super convenient, but I miss out on that buttery popcorn smell. But I really miss out on hearing how all of the audience members react to various parts of the movie. Anyway, at one part of the movie, the whole audience clapped when a certain decision was made. And then one audience member literally yelled out, "Thank you." Like, good decision. That's what we wanted you to do. I just thought that was so funny. And then at the end of the movie, everyone applauded too. I think that definitely has an effect on me and how I perceive the film and how I react to the film. You know, like if you think, oh, the movie's okay, but the whole audience is laughing, you're like, oh, yeah, I guess that is really clever. You know, that kind of a thing. Anyway, this new addition to the franchise was directed by James Mangold, not Steven Spielberg, but I thought he did an excellent job. Writing credits go to Jez Butterworth, John Henry Butterworth, and David Koepp. So let me give you some tips for parents because they may be interested in this. You know, it is a family-friendly movie in many regards. However, there is a lot of violence with various weapons, lots of explosions and destruction. We see some dead bodies with blood. We see people die, like get shot, you know, right through the forehead and that kind of stuff with blood. We see a lot of dead old skeletons. There's a lot of German that is spoken, sometimes with and sometimes without subtitles. And so you need to be able to read what's on the screen to understand what's going on. Some of the themes that are illustrated very well are redemption, closure, friendship, loyalty, time, history, family, and what motivates people. What is people's motivation to do certain things? I thought that was interesting. All right, so there were a lot of things I really liked about this movie and not very many of things that I didn't like. So here's the list of things I did like. First of all, the price of admission is absolutely worth it just to see Harrison Ford in this role again, right? He went on 40-mile bike rides and daily walks to be able to get into shape for this movie. Now, he's 80 years old, so he does look old. in the movie. And he's walking a little slower, but that's to be expected. In 2022, he confirmed that this would be the last time that he's going to play Indy, Indiana. Now, there is a de-agifying effect. Is that a word? De-agifying? That makes Harrison Ford look just a few years older than the last time we saw him in the first 2 episodes, but not as old as he is now. Somewhere in between, and then they go full on current day Harrison Ford. Anyway, I thought that those visual effects were incredible. I remember when Iron Man was one of the first movies that had that de-agifying effect on his face, and you could tell it wasn't quite right. But on this one, they just kind of brush off the wrinkles and he looks fantastic. It's just really fun to watch Harrison Ford punch a bunch of Nazis in the face and in other body parts. Other cast members include Antonio Banderas, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, John Rhys-Davies, Tony Jones, Mads Mikkelsen, and so many more. I heard that the British comedy Fleabag was really good and award-winning even. So I watched one episode about a year ago, and other than thinking that the show was super vulgar and crass, I was introduced to Phoebe Waller-Bridge and thought she was a really great actress, instantly recognizing her talent. So it was really fun to see her chosen as this female new character in this movie. Now, some viewers might be turned off by her mean-spirited personality, but we definitely do see a softer side, and you have to admit she does a really great job in the role. So it was wonderful seeing John Rhys-Davies and Karen Allen in their roles again. Now they're listed in the cast, so I don't think that those are spoiler alerts, but when you see them, I mean, I knew ahead of time, but even when I saw them, I went, and I gasped, oh, it was just so great. And for the audience, we get some closure. In addition, some of the characters getting closure. The nostalgia factor, in other words, for this movie is huge. The set designs are definitely going to take you back in time to the very first Indiana Jones movie that hit the big screen many years ago. There are a lot of scenes with action sequences that could easily be added to the current Indiana Jones ride at Disneyland, where there's things that drop and kind of roller coaster effect and that kind of thing. So we'll see if Disneyland actually does do that. Now, the director I mentioned is not Steven Spielberg, but I felt like he used some Steven Spielberg-esque camera moments. So much so, not that he was copying, but just that it made this new edition look like it really does belong in this franchise. I thought he did a great job. The movie might just make you want to learn a little bit more about Archimedes. No spoiler alert there. John Williams can do no wrong as a composer. The musical score in this movie is perfect. It sounds like an Indiana Jones movie. We get to travel to several destinations on the globe, and I always love it when movies allow us to do that. Now, with all of that great praise and more, I really did like it. And as I mentioned, the audience applauded, and I just really enjoyed it, and I felt closure. But there were a few things that I didn't like or just thought could have been done better. For example, the movie felt a little too long. I mean, we're pushing almost 2.5 hours. I easily could spot several scenes that could have been carved. A little shaving here and there would have dropped that viewing time down. I asked my husband, what did you think of the time? He was like, yeah, it felt long. And he suggested some scenes as well. Even some of the action sequences, believe it or not, kind of went on. And I'm like, okay, we get it. Let's move on. And then after teaching at the university level for decades, it doesn't make sense that we see Indiana Jones living in this dumpy apartment. Like, I was like, what happened? He's still teaching, in fact. And I'm a university professor. We make decent money. And so I thought that was kind of odd. And it made me sad to think that's what has become of Indiana Jones. Now, hopefully this isn't a spoiler. This is you know, as we first see him as an old man. And anyway, I didn't like seeing him like that, especially because all the young co-eds were so in love with him when he was teaching in the very first Indiana Jones. Remember when the girl closes her eyelids and it says, "Love you." If you haven't seen the first Indiana Jones, you definitely need to see the first one. But anyway, I just thought that that was kind of odd. All right, now I don't want to spoil anything, but there's this one character that we see that we are sure has died in a fiery ball and fallen off of something. I'm trying to be vague here. And we're like, okay, he's dead. And yet I knew he didn't die because he's a movie star. And I thought, okay, he's not going to die. We need him for the rest of the story. Well, he does come back, but his skin is flawless. And I'm thinking, shouldn't he have had some scars from that or burn marks on his face or something like that? So that didn't seem that realistic. There is a specific car chase scene in Tangier in Morocco. And I've actually been there and it really does look like that. But anyway, it just looked like a sped up cartoon. Whereas a lot of the other action sequences looked more realistic. This one just looked very cartoony, and maybe that's the look they were going for, that the director wanted. And the people that were walking nearby were walking at normal speed, but the cars were just kind of like cartoon cars even. Anyway, it just seemed weird to me, and it didn't seem to match up with the rest of the way the movie was presented or the other action sequences. Now, not everyone has embraced this franchise. I talked with the girl right outside the theater at the end of the movie, and you know, we were just chit-chatting because I'm a friendly person and I talk to strangers. And I said, "Oh, so what did you think?" She's like, "Well, I haven't really embraced this franchise." She didn't say it in those words, but she just was admitting she had never even watched the first one. I think she had watched the more recent one, you know, the Crystal Skull with Shia LaBeouf, which was not great. And so she wasn't impressed, so she never went back to watch the other ones. So if you fit in that category, go back and watch the first one, skip the second one, watch the third one, so great. Skip the fourth one, and then watch this one as the grand finale. All right, so I always write down interesting lines that catch my attention while I'm watching the movie, just so I can share them with you so you can get a taste for the dialogue. So here's an interesting line spoken by Dr. Voller, who's played by Mads Mikkelsen. And he says, "We didn't win the war," talking about World War II. "Hitler lost it." And that's an interesting line just by itself. But then when you learn about his character, you're like, oh, interesting. And then Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones, is having a conversation with Helena, who's played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. And he's talking about her father, who was his good friend. And they were researching this dial of destiny for a long time. But it kind of drove her father mad. And he says, "Wombat," he calls her, "why are you chasing the thing that drove your father crazy?" And she thinks for a minute and she says, "Wouldn't you?" And she's obsessed, equally as obsessed with this destiny of dial as her father was. All right. And then another interesting line again is spoken by Dr. Voller, who's played by Mads Mikkelsen. And he says, "Yesterday belongs to us, Dr. Jones." Now, no spoilers. I don't want to tell you what that means, but it is an interesting line. I went, oh. All right. So normally I'll give you all kinds of recommendations that are similar movies, but actually I just shared them with you about episode, if we can call it episode 1, 2, 3, 4, and now this finale. So there you have it. I enjoyed it. It's entertaining. It's a fun summer popcorn movie. Try to see it on the big screen if you can. Of course, it'll go to streaming. It'll be good there too. But, you know, we were sitting in the theater and the seats, of course, it was a Dolby theater with the lounge chairs, which was awesome. But the seats kind of rumbled a little bit. It wasn't the 4D where they truly rumble and sway, but just the volume of the sound effects, which were great, by the way, made the chairs kind of shake because of the action that was happening on the screen and the sound effects. Anyway, so it wasn't an IMAX, it was just this Dolby theater. So if you have one of those near you, go watch it in that. All right, thank you so much. Hopefully this review has been helpful. I hope you have a fantastic day. And thank you so much for all of your support. I will catch you in the next review. Bye for now.